magic water. See how you go, Ajahn Brahm. It's time for evening chanting, which is the same as the morning chanting. Why? Because this is timeless. Is that good? No? Okay. Yoso Bhagava Alahang Sama Sambuddho Suakato Yena Bhagavata Dhammo Supatipano Yassa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Dhammayang Bhagavantang Sadhamang Sasangang Imehi Sakharehi Yatavahak Aropite Hiyapi Pujayama Gante Bhagava Suchira Pariniputopi Pachima Janata Nukampamanasa Ime Sakare Dugata Panakala Bhute Patikan hatu amhakang dikhavatang hitaya sukhaya alahang sama sambuddho bhagava buddhang bhagavantang abhivademi. Suakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Dhammo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicha Charana Sampanno Sugato Kavidu Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarati Sata Deva Manusana Buddha Bhagava Tamahang Bhagavantang Abhipujayami Tamahang Bhagavantang Sirasa Namami.
Suwakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipassiko Opanayiko Pachatang Veditabo Vinyuhi Tamahang Dhammang Abhipujayami Tamahang Dhammang Sirasa Namami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ujupatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yaya Patipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sami Chipatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yadidang Chatari Purisayugani Atta Purisa Pugala Esa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ahuneyo Hahuneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttarang Punya Ketang Lokasa Tamahang Sangang Abhipujayami Tamahang Sangang Sirasa Namami. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing guidance and safety. May all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, or despise any beings in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, freed from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu,
Excellent. So now we have C questions. Oh my goodness. Got a lot to get through here. Let's see what we can do. First question here. Dear Ajahn, why is it so hard to stop? Be still. It's not. If you think it's going to be hard, make it harder. That's one of the reasons I keep saying it's easy to get into jhanas. Many people would disagree with me. And then sometimes, if I say it's hard and difficult to get into jhanas, then what will happen is that kind of, putting in bad information in you and controlling you, in a sense that it makes it harder when people say it's hard. Except there are some people who, if you tell them it's hard, they're rebellious. They don't believe monks. So, if you say it's really hard, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to prove it's easy. But actually, some of the people who get these jhanas, sometimes it's almost like they fluke it sometimes. And this one lady, this is the lady in Penang story. Because she, friends over in Penang, students over there, disciples, whatever you call them, followers, and they told me there was a lady there who'd been to see every type of psychologist, psychiatrist, counsellor. No one can solve her problem. And just come and see Ajahn Brahm. You know why they come and see me or any monastic? Because we're cheap. It's really good value for money. So anyway, she came to see me and I asked what her problem was. And she said she had this, it's almost like a psychosis. That's what she said. I said, what was it like? What happened? And then she started describing what happened to her. And then, with a big smile on my face, I said, lady, that wasn't a psychosis, that was a jhana. And I said a few other of what she would have experienced. Yes! Yeah, that was what it was. That's what it was like. And she was actually so happy. Because no one had actually taught her about these things. And no one had understood what was happening. And all these psychiatrists, that's an interesting one. What's that? looked in the books of, not Buddhist books, but psychology books, and say, oh, well, maybe you should take some Valium, it'll go away. That's terrible. But anyway, just by good fortune, she came to see me, and then I'm not making it up, it was actually a real one. And because I could add a few more details she hadn't told me, she was absolutely totally convinced. And I checked out the last time I was in Penang, how is she? And she said, that changed her whole life. She does a lot of meditation now. But actually, these things kind of happen to you. You're not even trying. Of course, it must be from a past life, but not just a past life. Sometimes people, the other time I found it, they're in such great trauma, something really bad's happened to them, that basically they let go because they can't stand being here, and they let go enough that they just enter these states. They haven't got a clue what they were, but they really go for it. And they have these deep meditations, not even actually sitting down in a meditation posture. It's rare, but I have come across that. So it's done sometimes. Next, this is the lovely question. Thank you for this one. Is there an optimal posture for meditation? Answer, no. I say that it's out of personal experience. I know this monk, and he had this terrible disease called scrub typhus years ago, but no one knew what it was. And it was because the Westerners in this region, the Western monks, had no immunity. The locals all had immunity. So when the medical people came up from Bangkok, they told us that there's no scrub typhus in this area. And that caused a lot of difficulty for anyone who caught this bug. It was scrub typhus, so similar to typhoid, and it was a very hard disease to cope with. Very hard, because in those days, please excuse me, when I went into the hospital, in the monk's ward, I'll do it again away, haven't I? When this monk I know went into the monk's ward of this hospital, I've always said what happened. When I went into this monk's ward of the hospital, it was actually just those old wards. This is 50 years ago, and they had like 2 lines of bed either side of the ward, like in the old days, no private ward. And because I just arrived, I was just in the one furthest from the toilet. Because what happened later on, you get, after 3 or 4 weeks in hospital with this fever, you get so exhausted. You get up to go to the toilet, and once you get into that toilet cubicle, you don't come out until you're sure everything has gone out, because you can't go in there every day. You don't have bedpans or anything. This is quite a basic hospital. And I still always remember at 6 p.m, they had a male nurse there looking after us, only one for about 15 or 16 months, and he disappeared. And I said to the monk in the next bed, should we tell somebody there's no replacement nurse come? He said, what are you talking about, replacement nurse? There is no replacement nurse. At night time, we're on our own. What happens if somebody needs some attendance? Oh, it's just bad karma, that's all. They actually said that. And that didn't make you sort of feel you're in a safe place. And then, I didn't really know at the time, but they hadn't got a clue what I'd got. I didn't know what I'd got, just a heavy fever. And so they had a series of injections, once every morning and once in the afternoon, by one of these Thai nurses. And if any of you think, isn't that a bit dangerous? These Thai nurses must be very attractive. Not the one who worked in the monk's ward. She looked like a water buffalo. Please excuse me, but this is just... because she had to be. Any doctors or nurses here No, they have. They inject you, and she would say, just turn over and inject you in your backside, and left side one morning, right side in the afternoon, and all they inject. I was amazed that the last time I had an injection was for the COVID vaccination or whatever it was, and to actually be able to travel overseas. And those needles are just incredibly fine. You can hardly feel them when they go in your skin. But these ones, whoa, that's why she needed to be tough. Because she never injected you, stabbed you. Because those needles were all recycled in those days. And I'm sure they were recycled in Bangkok first, maybe a couple of times, but not that many. And then they're sent over to the provinces. And in the provinces, the northeast of Thailand was supposed to be the tough area. And once they used them there, then they went to the monks' ward. We were supposed to be the really tough guys. And so, they were very dull. They had to stab you, otherwise they wouldn't go in. When I saw that nurse come here every morning and afternoon, your backside was so sore after all that time, and nothing was working. Ajahn Chah came to see me. Oh, that was so wonderful, that this great monk could actually come and see you. And I thought, wow, am I going to die? Is that why he's come? But no, he came to see me, and he just said this one sentence: you're either going to get better or you're going to die. That's what he said. The problem is you can't argue with that. That was true. So his wisdom was wonderful, but his bedside manner was abominable. So anyway, I did that just to build up the context. And then eventually, nothing was working, still getting fever every day. And eventually, I really was weak. I don't think in my life I've ever been as weak as that. I can't remember it. Just to be able to get up and go to the toilet was an expedition, like walking up Mount Everest. But anyhow, one day, what should I do? Nothing's working. And so I decided to meditate. But meditation, no way in the world you could actually sit up, right, and cross your legs. You're just lying in the bed. Yeah, you can meditate anywhere, why not? And so I closed my eyes and started meditating, and got in one of these really deep meditations. And that was so blissful, simply because, the alternative was just this body which was really sick with a fever. And the thing I noticed, I'm glad I noticed this, after a long time, that, I opened my eyes and my posture. My body had moved during that time I was meditating. It was just such a beautiful relief. But my posture, one leg that way, an arm over here, an arm over there. Have you ever visited someone who's really sick in hospital? They've hardly got any control over their body. It goes all over the place. And in all the books I've seen about meditation, I have never seen that posture. But it worked for me. So if you really haven't got into a jhana yet and you want to, just lay on the floor, put an arm this way, an arm that way, leg over that way. No, but that's not a joke, that actually happened. And it's just because that's what my body was doing, it didn't really matter. It's not the posture of your body which is important, it's actually the posture of your mind, to be able to let go. The body looks after itself. Dear Ajahn, my spouse is always cursing me for making dana. I can afford to do so after taking care of my responsibilities. I recently want to continue to doing charity, but this leads to strife at home. Please advise. These days, if you want to do dana, all you need to do is actually, standing donation? She doesn't know anything about it. Does your spouse live in the bank? Does she know what happens in the bank? Can you not do dana surreptitiously? I don't know, but anyway, always cursing you for making dana. Is you sure you understand her language? Maybe she's speaking in Pali or Sanskrit, and she's actually, it's words which mean well done. Sorry?
Might be a man.
No, it says my spouse. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's true. Spouse could be either, can't it? Okay. So if he is cursing you, you know that when I travel overseas, I think you've got a pair of these amazing sort of earbuds. I know Ajahn Brahm has, because go overseas, if you want to do some meditation, or you want to have a sleep on the aircraft, there's always noise disturbs you. And somebody told me that because Western Australia, there's lots of mining up north, that you have to get these earbuds which actually cancel out most of the noise. And these earbuds are designed, they fit your ears, they're sculpted just to fit your ears. So you have one right one, one left one, obviously two ears, but they're different earbuds. They're molded just to fit you. And so when they go in, they don't sort of feel there's any pressure in there at all. And the first time I tried those, I was on the flight, and I decided, let's give these a try. I wanted to meditate, so I crossed my legs and just meditated as best I could on the back of the chair, and then I fell asleep. I don't usually fall asleep meditating, but this time fast asleep. I didn't mind because I was tired. And then I got up to go to the toilet, and as I was going up, I thought, wow, this aircraft is really quiet. I left my earbuds in. And because of that, I realized how comfortable they were, and also just how well they work. They were really silent. And they're so small you can hardly see them. So, get yourself a pair of those. And when your husband starts cursing you, just do what you normally do with a husband. Yes, darling, yes, darling, yes, darling. And don't listen to a word he says. Is that what you do? And anyway, when you don't react to what he says, then there should be no problem. You want to continue doing charity, but this leads to strife at home. Not doing charity leads to strife as well. So, just do it. With earbuds in. And if he gets really violent, get one of these football helmets. I don't know. And it's so important to do charity and dana. Even I can never give any money, don't have any, but if I have any food, sometimes I have food, isn't it a beautiful thing to give to somebody? It may be something I really, 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 really like, and I'm hungry. It's beautiful to give it to somebody. You see it and just offer it to them. And even it's maybe I'll go hungry that day, but still it's worthwhile doing. I feel so much more happiness if you give it to somebody else. Not just that, other things. Just airports I was just mentioning. Once there was just walking through the terminal, and there was a lady over there on one of the benches inside the terminal, and she'd obviously transferring from one flight to the other. And I remember just seeing her just from a distance. She was rocking this way, rocking that way, and she was trying to get some sleep, but she couldn't get some sleep. And I had one of these iPads. You know what iPads are? They're eye shades. I remember being really cheeky for one of the monks once. I won't say who it was, but I said, "Do you want an iPad?" And he really likes electronic equipment. He said, "Oh yeah, what brand is that? Is it an Apple or a Samsung?" And I got it out, that's one of these. Ajahn Brahm. You're too naughty. So anyway, these earbuds, they're really, really good. And what else? iPads. Right in the airport, yes. But it doesn't neglect the fact that these earbuds are good as well. I was just reinforcing it. So the iPad, they're very good in your ears, but that's not a good place to put them. And so I just gave it. I just saw her twisting and turning, trying to get some sleep. I just try one of these. And she looked at it and said, "Thank you." And then she put them on. Because you can see a long way in the airport, I looked back and she had them on and she looked far more peaceful than she was before. Something like that. You can give someone and help them. It makes you feel so much better. So I make Dharma as best I can, in whatever way I can. I love it. Anyway, please. And your partner, your spouse, are they always in the house next to you? Can't you actually just get some secret Dharma? Anyway, thanks for your retreat and spreading Dharma to the world. Can you please consider to have 3 retreats per year? Maybe shorter 5-day retreats. Yes, I'll consider that. Actually, I do more than 3 retreats a year, because it's only 2 retreats for the BSWA, and now there's like a retreat. They've opened up a new retreat centre in Newbury, outside of Melbourne, so doing retreats there, at least once a year. And we also do a retreat at Anakampa Grove once a year. And we also do a retreat, where else do we do a retreat? Over in, sorry?
Malaysia, Singapore.
Yeah, Malaysia, Singapore, yeah. And this year, the Singaporeans do this, what they call executive retreat, which they hold in a hotel. And they hire the whole hotel, and they'll go there, and they make it comfortable. The first part of the retreat, they usually make it a 5-precept retreat, so that mum and dad can come with their kids. Not for me, of course. That I just keep the 8 precepts. No, I don't even want 8 precepts. But then the last part of the retreat is full 8 precepts for everybody. And the kids can go home, but one of the parents or both of them, they can find a way to stay all weekend, on all the 8 days. And it makes it, because some of these hotels, they can give activities for the kids. A lot of the time, especially in the evening, these kids, they listen, and some of their parents think they're falling asleep. They may look like they're falling asleep, but it's amazing just how much those kids remember. So much so that there was one kid years ago, only about 7 or 8, and at the end of the year, we hold over here in the Buddhist Society of West Australia Ajahn Brahm's party. Ajahn Brahm's party, there is no alcohol, of course, and I do that, I invite as many of the Buddhists as possible, because otherwise they say, well look, it's New Year's Eve, and we get invited to so many parties, and eventually we just give in and go there and people offer us alcohol, and it's not good for us. So I said, yeah, well I'll stop that by having a party myself, Ajahn Brahm's party, with no alcohol on New Year's Eve. And lots of people come. It's a full house usually. And after the party is finished, I asked people, please drive home, not safely, but see if you can find a police car. And if you find a police car, let them stop you, because they always ask you, sir, have you been drinking? And you say, yes. Apple juice, cups of tea. And they take your blood alcohol level and they find it's 0. And they find, what type of party have you been tonight?
a Buddhist party. Ajahn Brahm's New Year's Eve party. So we have some fun, but one of the things we do there, that I don't know if this is really old and I shouldn't be doing this, but apparently I asked them what's like a popular TV show. I have to trust them. And one of them, I think, like a talent show. Is it called The X Factor or something? Anyway, I say, okay, you split up into a few groups or some volunteers. Now, I want to find out if you've got what it takes to be a monk or a nun, to be a monastic. And so, good, he's not here today. That's good. But one of these, you have people, they volunteer, and the first thing which I do, okay, can you do some chanting? I give them something to chant, and they have to chant it, and they're rated, given a score out of 5. Most of them are hopeless. And the next one, I had some old robes, so put on a robe. Can you keep it on? And they find it really difficult. One of the next things I do, we have the holy water bowl, if you've been over to the monastery on the other side of the road. Now, see how you are doing the sprinkling. And one of the last ones was give a Dhamma talk, 5 minutes. And the person I'm thinking about, and he'll chat to you for hours on the Dhamma, but to give a Dhamma talk, he couldn't do it. He just couldn't get the words together. And then this other person, she was, what was it, this 8 or 9-year-old girl, give a Dhamma talk. And then she gave this Dhamma talk, and I was just blown away. Her talk was just so amazingly accurate, talking about jhanas, and talking about then you use those to actually see the Dharma, to get insight, and you get enlightened. Wow! And because she comes to most of the talks which I give, and people think she's not paying attention, but she was. And straight away I used my being the spiritual dictator of the BSWA. So okay, we can stop all this competition anymore. She wins, hands down. It really was. How many of you were there for that? I was. Oh, you were there. I just couldn't believe it. How well she understood Dhamma at just 8 years of age. I don't know if she was understanding or just memorizing like a parrot, but it's certainly impressive. So that's one of the reasons why that people think that kids don't listen, but they really do. Okay, next question. Dear Ajahn Brahm, may you please ask Venerable Mudu or Venerable Chanda to lead a weekend retreat here? I'll think about it. What about Venerable Soma or Venerable Prasadika? Prasada. Yeah, but will I in the future? Yeah. And we'd actually, honestly, we are working on that. I think that'd be great. Well, actually, Venerable Chanda does lead weekend retreats and week retreats, and how many other retreats over in England and other places in the world. And we were just finding out whether that's legal according to the law, because you're not Australian citizen, but you're visiting or on a tourist visa. And so we just figured it out. Yeah, you can. They asked all this. Who was it? I think Anusha. Was she here today? She's been here. But anyway, helping out. And then she actually rang out all these right guys, and they actually gave the answer. Yeah, can be done. So, at the very least, I think to do a Q&A one of these evenings, because that's actually where you get to know who they are. You can ask them tough questions. how old do you have to be to give a Dhamma talk? Once. No, I mean, how many years is a monk or a monastic? This once, I was, I can remember, 27 years of age. And this was the celebration of Magha Puja. Magha Puja is the full moon in February. And it's always a very big event over in Thailand. And so we'd all go over from whatever monastery we were in to Ajahn Chah's monastery. And there's a couple of thousand monks there. I don't know how many lay people, maybe a couple of thousand, maybe 600 monks or something, but many thousand lay people. And that was a big evening. And after doing the chanting, usually Ajahn Chah would give the talk. But sometimes he would choose someone else to give a talk. And so he looked down the line of monks, which was a big line of monks. And I'd seen this happen before. I was, I think, 4 years as a monk. And if his eyes stopped at you, you're in big trouble. And there's some really good teachers there, but Ajahn Chah's eyes went all the way down and went to my eyes and went past them. And I thought, whew. And then his eyes came up the line again. Brahma Wangso, get up and give the talk. I was kind of shocked. Only 4 years as a monk. And the talk would have to be given in Thai or Laotian. Not my native language. Get up and give a talk. You couldn't refuse. And there was so many people listening there, including your own teacher. And that was the first big talk I gave. So, 4 years as a monk, it kind of worked, I think. It did okay. The most important thing is you lost your fear of giving talks. And I remember Ajahn Sumedho telling me that once he was asked to give a talk on one of the evenings of the Poya days. And he gave a talk for 1 hour, and then he was about to get down from the chair to go back to his seat, and Ajahn Chah said, another hour. And you can't refuse. So he gave a talk the second hour. This was all in Thai. And it's really hard, to get material after you've been talking 2 hours already. There's so much repetition. But no one would actually complain. They'd just get out from the hall and leave. And he finished 2 hours. And then Ajahn Chah said, another hour. And this was really difficult. He was repeating himself and having so much space between, ideas. And after 3 hours, nearly all the monks and lay people had left, except Ajahn Chah was still there. Another hour, he said. And by now, even all the wall lizards had mostly gone. The mosquitoes had all gone. They'd had enough to eat that evening. And so he just had to do another hour. He said it was dreadful. But it was Ajahn Chah's way of saying, just give the talk and don't worry about its quality. Just speak. And that means from that day on, apparently, he was never afraid of giving a public talk. He'd gone to the very depths. It couldn't be worse than that. Anyway, this question, next one. Dear Ajahn, does one have to consciously go through 16 steps of anapanasati, i.e. calming the breath, etc., or just keep on watching the breath, and it happens automatically? Happens automatically. And for example, I think I did mention this to you, the 16 steps, what about the preparation? That's probably more important, the preparation, to be able to arouse mindfulness as a priority. Sometimes people translate that establish mindfulness in front of you. What on earth is that? In front of where? In front of your nose and your eyes? Where do you live in this body? So it does not mean that. It's an idiom. In front of you is much better translated as to establish mindfulness as a priority. The first, the top of your list. And that makes so much more sense. how can you watch the breath if your mindfulness isn't strong? And to go to a convenient place, they say a secluded place, but sometimes secluded places don't exist, and sometimes you have to meditate anywhere. And I like trying to find out if that's true. Can you meditate peacefully in noisy places? One of the noisiest places I meditated in for a couple of hours was actually in front of, in the middle of the city, in front of Hay Street Mall, over here in Perth. And opposite this shop called Time Zone. Good, I know you know that. And that was like a computer game shop where you could just go in there, pay a few dollars or whatever, and you get on the computer game, and it's blasting out rock music all the time. And I thought, great, I can have an opportunity to see if all these things I tell other people actually work. And it was okay, no trouble at all. You sit down there and you create this little zone around you. I call it like a bubble around you, and you're inside, and you can hear the sound of all these people and cars and rock music and stuff, but you don't listen to it. You hear it, but don't listen. You're kind of inside. And it's like this background noise around you, but you're actually inside. And I was fascinated you could actually do that and sit for a couple of hours, no problem, with all this noise around you. So, and next in the 16 steps, breathing in a long breath, breathing in out a long breath, breathing in a short breath, breathing out a short breath. Again, you don't have to do that. That's just a way of making the breath interesting by adding something to it. Because sometimes I was always wondering what actually counts as a long breath. How long? Because if I just breathe naturally, my breath is never long or short. It's kind of in between. Exactly how much? Should I try and measure it somehow and then find out exactly if I'm doing the Anapanasati Sutta right or not? But then these days you don't ever do that. You watch the breathing, first of all, and I think I described it to you just like a finger is my metaphor. Watching it go this way, that way, this way, that way. I'm watching the breath go in, watching the breath go out, my finger go to the right, my finger go to the left. And then you get to the full awareness of the breath. See the whole movement of the finger from the left to the right, and the right to the left. That becomes a full awareness of the breath. And then you calm that breath down. Oh, I'm going too fast. It just goes slowly, naturally, because you're relaxing. And then experience the piti sukha with the breath. Which one first? So it's piti first and then sukha next, but it doesn't matter. Piti sukha, they come together usually. And then you see the whole of the... It's very wonderful when they say you can see the chitta sankhara. I love that little phrase because it told me where this piti sukha is coming from the mind. It's a mental awareness of the breath, and it's gorgeous. And then you see the beautiful breath. That's what I called it first, delightful breath. That is important. And that's why a lot of people say they don't do that. And that's sometimes why it's hard to carry on with the awareness of the breath. There's nothing to really grab it. If you focus on it, try and concentrate on it, you're putting this force on it like a control freak. It can't relax. It never gets that peaceful that the piti sukha really starts to develop. You let it happen, and soon the piti sukha is just so nice. Okay, I know this monk. He had his range retreat recently, and because you're always tired, work too hard, yeah, but it's not really too hard, it's just good enough. And then I thought, okay, first day of my retreat, I'm just going to relax. I deserve to relax. No need to get up early in the morning or whatever. But I did. I just can't stop getting up early in the morning. But I thought I'm going to be really tired. Doesn't matter, just slump. And then I started meditating. This is a monk I know. I keep making that mistake. And then, just so quickly, watched my breath, and it was so beautiful. And nimittas came up, really powerful ones, almost immediately. And I thought, wow, this is unexpected and just comes so easy. The first day when I gave that up to just relaxing, it just, my mind, when I don't force it, it kind of rebels. It says, no, I want, it's like the mind says, I want to see some great nimittas. There's really beautiful, powerful ones come up. So this is what happens. It all becomes automatic. It surprises even me. So you don't have to do them like that. But the last 4 stages, that's the insight stages, to be able to understand anicca, say the first one. Do you know what anicca means? Thank you for not answering, because of course you don't. If you did, you'd be almost enlightened. You think you do. It does not mean rise and fall. What it means is, I love this because this came from when I was studying the Vinaya. Not many people study the Vinaya unless you're a monastic, because you say, I just want to get the real Dhamma. But there you see how words are used in general usage by ordinary people. Anicca means that something which is regular, always there, is now gone. It's disappeared. It's not there anymore. It's not just coming and going, it's going for a long time. And the best example of that is the story of, I haven't said it yet on this retreat, the tadpole and frog. And that was one of the stories when I did that. It's in Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond book. When I first published that, of course you sent it over to the Wisdom publications, they were going to publish it, and they had the suggested edits. They were going to take out that whole story. I said, no way. That's one of the best stories in there. And the story of the tadpole and the frog is, once upon a time, are you sitting comfortably? Once upon a time, there was this very intelligent tadpole. She was so smart that in the lake where she grew up, it was in a monastery lake, and there was a good school in that monastery lake. So she went to the school, worked really hard, and she eventually went to high school in the lake, and then they even had a university in the lake. And this smart little tadpole, she learned all about, she majored in hydrology, and just in water, its nature, and how it can be used. She was an expert amongst all the animals in the lake about water. And did she understand? Even actually she overheard some of the monks discussing the Abhidhamma about water. She knew as much as the monks or anybody did about the nature of water. But can she really understand water when she was born in the water, lived all her life in the water, and knew nothing else but water? Just like a fish can't understand water. But the difference between this tadpole and a fish is, one day this little tadpole, she grew appendages. She grew little legs and also little arms. She was transforming into a frog. And one day this little tadpole, she wasn't really knowing what she was up to, but she just experimented, and she extended those appendages, the legs and the arms of a frog, and she jumped out of the lake. Now imagine that experience. For the first time ever, you're standing alive and there's no water around you. It's vanished, it's disappeared. It's anicca. Imagine what it must feel like. Now, little tadpole, she understands what water is. When it's disappeared, when it's anicca. This is what happens in the deep meditations. Things have vanished. In that first jhana, Your 5 senses have gone. It's not a theory anymore. You're there, perfectly aware, but there's no 5 senses. In the second jhana, what disappears there? Your will, choice. It's not there anymore. Do you understand what will is? You can be mindful of it, but you haven't understood it yet. It's always there for you. It's like a button, always on the wall, or you can always press it whenever you need to. But now that button has vanished. It's anicca. It's not there anymore. When you have that as an experience, it's one of the weirdest, strangest experiences, but now you have this great possibility for insight. It doesn't matter, I mean, little tadpole, or little frog now, she jumps back into the lake afterwards. It's not dangerous. It's huge insights. Oh, good, you paid attention there. I got through to you. Dear Ajahn, oh yeah, continuously through steps. So, there's a lot of things, that's just anicca. Anatta, dukkha. Do you really understand what dukkha is? I'll test you now. Okay. Dukkha. Does an arahat, fully enlightened being, does she experience suffering? Or is she happy? She's enlightened now. Okay, we live in democracies. Let's have a vote on this. Put your hand up if you think that an arahat experienced suffering. Put your hand up if you think she doesn't experience suffering. Okay, so, the democracy is always pretty accurate. She does. I love asking that question because see how deeply people understand the Dhamma. And one of the suttas, Vajira, and that's in the Bhikkhuni Samyutta, thank you. You think? I don't think. Anyway, wherever it is, that's where this Bhikkhuni Arahat, Vajira, she was just sitting there quietly, and then Mara comes up and said, "What are you doing there?" And he said, "You're saying there's a you, there's a being. There's no being, there's just these 6 senses or 5 khandhas just doing their thing." And he said, "Who is this anyway?" Says Mara to Vajira, or something like this. And Vajira said, "Look, there's no one here. All there is dukkha arising, dukkha lasting a little while, and dukkha disappearing. That's the experience of an enlightened being." Do you want to get enlightened? Am I marketing it well? But the point is that there's 2 phases of Nibbana. When you first become enlightened, like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, that's Nibbana with the khandhas remaining. Buddha hasn't disappeared yet. He's still got a body, he's still got the senses, he's still got a mind, consciousness. At least that's what it appears like. But the second Nibbana, the aparisesa Nibbana, otherwise known as Parinibbana, that's complete Nibbana, that happens when the Buddha's or the Arahat's 5 khandhas stop, like the death of an enlightened being. When that happens, everything stops. That's complete Nibbana. That's the end of suffering. Getting fully enlightened is not the end of suffering. Just when the Arahat passes away, disappears, gone forever. That is the end of suffering. It's still pretty good becoming enlightened. You know that a lot of suffering is gone, and you're not going to get reborn again. So don't demean it, but it's still suffering. And I'm asking that question because I'm pretty sneaky and I want to find out how other people understand this. Anyway, next question. You say meditating is to let go, not to gain. I've had a little bit of experience with this. However, I find your lots of talking about jhanas, bliss and 4 stages of enlightenment has the opposite effect on my mind. It makes me wanting, not a peaceful letting go mind. Any advice? Good. You've seen wanting. That's one of the hindrances. That's one of the defilements, the kilesas. Wanting is not the way to get anything. If you really want to get something which is enjoyable, let go. If you really want something, stop wanting it. If the little donkey wants to get the carrot or the hamburger, whatever's on the end of that string, he's got to not run after it. It comes to him or her. And this is actually the weird thing about the Dhamma. That's why many people never achieve anything, because they want it. And sometimes they get very close, just to the last minute. Many of you have asked me that question in the interviews. How do you stop that? So sometimes you see this beautiful bliss, and you know it's going to be full of great insights. You know you're not supposed to go towards it. And when it's right in front of you, you can't help yourself. You destroy it. You can't say to yourself, when it's right in front of you, I must not grab it, I must not. That's just too gross at that particular time of the meditation. So what you do, you program your mindfulness at the beginning of the meditation. Those people who get very close to the jhanas or nimittas, this beautiful bliss, you know beforehand you should not reach out towards it or try and grasp it. Just like Ajahn Chah and the animals coming out by the still forest pool. Be quiet, almost disappear, vanish. Your sense of self and doing and attaining things and getting things is replaced by letting go. But how do you actually do that? You brainwash yourself or condition yourself at the beginning of the meditation. You're just sitting down for the first time, you're nowhere near any jhanas yet. Sit down on your cushion or your chair and you tell yourself, if I get a nice meditation, if it starts getting peaceful, I will not attach to those beautiful experiences. I will not control them, I will let go. You say that, and after a while, that actually gets right inside of you, and that's how you train yourself to behave. You will let a goer instead of like an attainer. You know what I said earlier before? Ajahn Brahm cannot enter jhana. Ajahn Brahm disappears first. You disappear, you vanish. You're not there, so you can't do anything. And it happens naturally, automatically. It's the nature of things. The default state, said Ajahn Chah. As you go out, there's enough light outside. Look at one of the bushes or the trees and see if the leaves of that bush are moving. If they are moving, why? It's because of a wind. If there is no wind, there hasn't been wind for hours, do those leaves of the bushes move? They're perfectly still. Because that's their nature, to be still. And Ajahn Chah gave that simile, and he said that's the nature of your mind. It's a nature to be still. You only make it move by wanting something. It's a lovely simile. If you really know how to let go, not attain anything, you become perfectly still. I was going to tell this story this evening, but I haven't answered that many questions, but I'm going to tell it anyway. It's a good one. This is a story of, in the tradition of Theravada Buddhism, that some of the monastics, when they go walking here, there and everywhere to try and not even attach to places, there comes a time for the rains retreat. And that rains retreat, we have to find a place to stay, with a door. And so this monk was wandering around this area, this land, this realm, and he came just to a poor farmer's residence. And the poor farmer was a really good Buddhist, and he said, "Oh, Venerable Sir, have you found a place for the rains retreat yet?" And the monk said, "Actually, no." And so the farmer went down on two legs and bowed and said, "Please, Venerable Sir, please, come and stay with me for the rains. I can build you a very small little hut. It won't take me very long. I'm strong and I've got enough wood next to the river, and there you can actually bathe in the evening, get some water. It's good water in the river. And my wife and I will be very happy to feed you. It's good merit for us. All we will ask, I've got 3 kids, my wife and my kids, and we also had a dog. They would love to actually to just listen to some Dhamma from you. Maybe on the moon nights we can meditate together." And the monk looked at him and said, I consent. So this farmer quickly built a little shed or hut for this monk. Many people think it's difficult to look after a monk or a nun, but actually we're very cheap, as I said. Even this fellow, he came on one of these conferences which I gave over. This was over in New Zealand. And when he came, he was actually an advisor to the Bank of England. And he had one talk he was going to give. Overnight he changed it. And just say, now how expensive is it to look after a monk or a nun? How much does it actually cost? And he worked it out, he did all the figures, he's a great accountant. He figured that it was cheaper to look after a monk or a nun than to have a pet dog. Every home should have one. And there's a lot of similarities. Dogs live in little huts, they're called kennels. Monks and nuns are a little bit bigger. The dogs eat out of a bowl. And the dogs are very kind, they never just cause any problem. And you can take them on a walk in the mornings. For those of you Saturday mornings at Nolamara, we always have a kind of an arms round. And it's actually, I don't know who's leading who. There's lots of lay people come for a nice early morning walk on the arms round. There's lots of similarities. And just like a dog, people have dogs in their house because they're so kind and they're just so warm and they never cause any problem, just like monks and nuns. Do you want to adopt one? But anyhow, so he consented, built a nice little hut, and the monk would give them a talk whenever they needed. And the whole family, including the dog, got to really love this monk. He was just so kind and easy to look after and so friendly. And so even before he came, the dog would bark to say the monk has arrived for his breakfast. And it came the time passed so quickly, and then the monk came one morning and said to them, "It's the end of the rains retreat now. I'm going to continue my wanderings." And they said, all of them, the husband, the wife, the 3 kids and the dog, they went on the ground and they bowed to the monk and said, "Please don't go. Please, we've come to love you like part of the family, like this wonderful grandfather, so wise, so kind, we've learned so much from you, please don't go." And the old monk said, "No, look, I have to go. But," he said, "you've been so kind to me, and you've made so much good karma. My meditation's been excellent in that little hut you built for me. So good that because of the deep meditations I've had, I've discovered that not far from here, there's a buried treasure. I saw it in the power of my meditation. I want you to have it. Okay, I won't be around, but I want to leave some great teachings for you, and so you don't have to worry about money ever again. And actually they preferred he would be there, but at least there was some compensation. And he told them, listen carefully and follow the instructions accurately. So the monks said, in the morning I want you to stand at this doorway facing the sun, or where the sun rises. Now when you take that bow and arrow, which you really shouldn't have because it kills animals, take that bow and arrow, and then point the bow in the direction of the rising sun. Put that arrow in the bow, and just as the sun rises, drop the arrow in the let the arrow fly. That's what's the word. Let the arrow fly. If you do that, where it falls, you'll find this enormous buried treasure. And the people were crying, the farmer, and it's and even the dog was whining, putting his tail between his legs. And so the following morning, they thought they'd at least be wealthy because they knew that old monks don't lie. So he went there, waiting for the sun to rise. He had the arrow and put it in the bow, and just as the sun rose, he let the arrow fly and went a long distance. They all ran after it with a spade. Actually, I think it was the wife was carrying the spade, but don't worry, there's always karma when there's any misogyny. Bad karma. So the wife was running after it with a spade, the 3 kids and the dog. And where the arrow fell, they started digging, or rather his wife did, poor wife. And they dug a big hole. And what did they find? Nothing, only trouble. Because where it fell, that land belonged to a rich merchant. And the rich merchant said, you can't do that. Actually, he wasn't just a merchant, he was actually a lawyer. He said, you can't do that. You know, you're destroying my property. I'm going to sue the lot of you. I'm going to take your whole farm away from you. And then the wife said, it's not my fault. I just do what my husband told me. And the husband said, it's not my fault either. An old monk said that where the arrow dropped, that's where we'll find this big treasure. And then the businessman, the lawyer, he said, that's strange, because old monks don't lie. He was a Buddhist too. So he said, look, what were the instructions? And then they told him the instructions again. I'll do it quickly, because otherwise I'll be here till tomorrow night. What were the instructions? He said, look, get the bow and arrow, stand in the doorway of your house, and in the morning, point the bow and arrow in the direction of the rising sun, and when the sun actually goes above the horizon, actually clears the horizon, then let the arrow fly. And the lawyer said, look at you. Now you're just a farmer. What do you know about archery? He said, no, I'm in an archery club. Tomorrow, he said, this is the deal, and I won't prosecute you. Tomorrow morning, I will stand at the door of your house, and I will shoot that arrow. And when we find that treasure, I'm sure we will, because old monks don't lie, then we'll split it 51%, 49% less cost and incidental, out-of-the-pocket expenses. Are there any lawyers here? Please don't sue me for that. So the following morning, the lawyer was up there early, took the bow, followed the instructions, looked in the direction of the rising sun, pointed the bow and arrow in the direction of the rising sun. When the sun was about to rise and separate from the horizon, he let the arrow fly. It went much further, and they all ran after it. This time it was the man's job to carry the spade. That's what happens when you give all the chores to your wife. You have to do it afterwards. And so they all ran after it, including the dog. And where it fell, they dug a big hole. What did they find? Nothing, only more trouble. Because this time, that land belonged to a general in the army. And the general said, "That's my land, you're damaging it," and told his soldiers, "Cut off their heads." And then the husband who dug the hole said, "It's not my fault, it's not my fault. And just, I was told to do this." He did, the lawyer. And the lawyer said, "Not my fault either. It was this old monk said we'll find a treasure here." And then the general said, "An old monk?" The general said, "Sorry?" Yeah. The general said, "I'm a Buddhist too." I don't know how general could be a Buddhist. Maybe he was the one who went to see Ajahn Chah, and Ajahn Chah spat on his head or something. So the general said, "Look, we'll make a deal. Tomorrow morning, I'm a general, I'm in the army, I'm a military man. I will shoot that arrow. And then we'll split it sort of 3 ways. We don't need to sort of 49%, 51%. Just 1 for you, 1 for you, and 2 for me." Okay, I thought I'd get a giggle there, but no, I try. So anyway, the following morning they did that. This time, the general shot the arrow so much further. He was a professional. And they all ran after it. The general, the husband, the lawyer, the wife, and the 3 kids, and of course the dog. I should never not include the dog. They're really important in this story. And where it landed this time in the garden of His Majesty the King. And the royal troops arrested the whole lot of them. And His Majesty the King brought them. It's a long story, but I'll be finishing it soon. Brought them in front of the king. And the king looked at, first of all, the general. Said, "I'm surprised at you. You're one of my most trusted generals. Why have you dug this big hole in my garden?" And the general said, "It's not my fault. There's this lawyer, he told us we'll find a treasure there." "A treasure there? What do you mean, lawyer?" And the lawyer said, "It's not my fault. The husband told me." He said, "What do you mean, husband?" "Oh, this is mom." I'm not going to say he blamed his wife. And then the king said, "Why? What happened?" And then the farmer said, "This monk visited us, and he told us if we follow the instructions correctly, where the arrow falls, there we'll find a great treasure." And the king said, "I'm a Buddhist too. Old monks don't lie." So, he said, "This is really strange. Now, I cannot let you go. Destroying the king's property is a capital offense. I'll have to execute you, all of you, including your accomplices, even the dog." It's got a happy ending, don't worry. But I want to find that monk, find out what's going on. This is really strange. So they put them in a jail. They looked after them really well, really good food, just like in Jhana Grove here. Even good dog food, really amazing dog food. And then he sent his soldiers out to look for this old monk. They found him pretty easily, and they brought him back to see the king. And the king had everybody all together and said, "You've got these people into big trouble, even this dog into big trouble. Why?" And the old monk said, "They didn't follow my instructions." "What do you mean?" And the old monk said, "Your Majesty, can I invite you to shoot the bow and arrow tomorrow? You to carry out the instructions. We can split all the buried treasure 4 ways equally. I don't want anything. I just want to see your faces when you understand what you did wrong." So the following morning, they were all there at the doorway to this poor farmer's hut. And they had the bow and arrow. Even the dog was there, just really interested. And just as the sun started to come up, the king picked up the bow and arrow, and he turned around to the old monk. The old monk, "Correct, Your Majesty." And as the sun was coming up above the horizon, he was pointing the bow and arrow in the direction of the rising sun. He turned around, "Correct, Your Majesty." And he was just about to shoot it, and he turned around, and the monk said, "Wrong, Your Majesty." He couldn't understand. What had he done wrong? I said, "Let the arrow fly." The king was very smart, that's why he was the king. He was holding the arrow at its end with his thumb and forefinger. He let the arrow fly, opened up his thumb and forefinger, and the arrow fell right to the ground, right where the king was standing. And of course, that's where they dug this big hole. Actually, not a big hole, just a small hole, and found this incredible amount of buried treasure. It was so much that even the king's share was satisfied. The general could retire from the army. The lawyer didn't need to do any work anymore. And even the husband and wife the husband never needed to tell his wife to dig anything anymore. Could get a bulldozer to do that. And the kids could go to really nice schools. And even the dog had this multi-story kennel, air-conditioned. What else? But anyway, so the moral of that story is, if you want to find a treasure, let the arrow of craving fly straight down, right where you are, where you're sitting. And there you will find such an amazing amount of treasure. Even if you've got a dog, the dog will never have to want for anything for the rest of its life, where the arrow falls. Hope you enjoyed that. I promised myself I'd take it tonight. Anyway, can the nuns take some of the Q&A sessions? Yeah. Okay. Do it tomorrow? We've done that before. So yeah, tomorrow. What day is it tomorrow? Thursday? Friday? No, Thursday tomorrow, isn't it? Thursday. It's a good day to do it. What do you reckon? Democracy, who thinks the nuns should do the Q&A tomorrow? Who thinks they should do it on Friday? Who thinks they should do it on both days? Okay. Today I experienced a deeper meditation, and after a while it all became very steady. I only used one of your teachings, breathing in peace, breathing out, letting go. And what started to happen, deeper in, pain has arisen. From legs, neck, the whole body was feeling stiff. But I relaxed deeper and the pain subsided. Great. And then it came back. This happened in a few waves. Each time it went away, but my body felt like it was gripping, grasping. This kept me off going deeper, from going deeper. Is it a normal occurrence in meditation? How to overcome this? Yeah. Sometimes the pain does come up. Okay, I know this monk. Sorry. But when I was wandering from place to place, I got to the north of Thailand, there was this monastery. I heard it was a meditation monastery, but I never knew the routine. And I'd been traveling all day in these buses where you have one seat for two people. They have about 5 or 6 and some chickens in there as well, just on the seat. And it was really cramped for many hours, really sort of sore from all the travel I was doing that day and exhausted. And when I got to this monastery in the north of Thailand, they told me that I was just in time for the evening meeting. And the evening meeting was no chanting, it was like no talk, it was a 4-hour meditation. For 4 hours. Couldn't move. So, oh my goodness, this is going to be tough. So I sat down and I realized straight away, there's no tea or coffee. I realized straight away, if you don't do your meditation properly, this is going to be torture. 4 hours when your body was just so tired and dehydrated. But what this monk did, he decided, not messing around, let's just do it. And just after about 10 or 15 minutes, you got into a nice deep state. And then, because I got into a deep meditation reasonably quickly, there's no pain. You got past that point where the body can kind of contact you, and it was really pleasant. So pleasant that I could, at the end, hear this gong, and it was only 3 hours and 45 minutes, and I complained. Unfair, you said 4 hours. This is what happens if you can get past a particular point of feeling the body and go into sort of the mind. You're kind of like immune. One of the other things I know this monk did was mosquitoes in Thailand. Mosquitoes in Thailand, when we first went to Wat Ba Nana Chat, it was not called Wat Ba Nana Chat, there was no buildings there. Because most of the monks were Americans, it was called Wat Ba America Wat by Ajahn Chah. And Ajahn Chah, he would come every evening to support us, to make sure that the lay people know that we had his support, so they would support us. And so we would meditate under the trees for a couple of hours every evening, from about 6 to 8, which was dinner time for the mosquitoes. That's the time they started to swarm. And there were hundreds, thousands of mosquitoes in that forest. And we didn't have any mosquito repellent, no mosquito coils, it was outside. And the first night I thought, how can you stand this? There's hundreds of mosquitoes on you. And sometimes you look at the Thai monks, and they were meditating so peacefully. And I thought of getting up and running away. But you saw Ajahn Chah in front of you. He was just so peaceful. So I can't do that. So with the monk sitting next to me, he was from California, the monk sitting next to me, we would count the number of mosquitoes on our arms to see, who was the champion, who got the most. And it was, for what I remember, it's about 40 or 50 at a time, sucking your blood. And sometimes I sort of fantasize, you could kind of hear it. And it was only just an endurance test, because Ajahn Chah was sitting in front. And I thought, this is really terrible. When we asked Ajahn Chah, can we have any mosquito repellent or something? He said no. He said, from now on, please call those Ajahn mosquitoes. They're your teachers. That's what the word Ajahn means. It's like a teacher. I said, that doesn't help. But it did. This is the kind of how he really respected Ajahn Chah. He wasn't like a normal monk. Sometimes you could see things much deeper than you did. So the only way you could withstand all those mosquitoes biting you was actually, as soon as you sat down, before they kind of found you, you did some really nice deep meditation. You really did let go. And then the first time I did that, you couldn't feel the mosquitoes. And they were just normal, there's hundreds of them around. But when I came out of the meditation, the first thing I did, this is how I was dressed, there was the robe and the bare arm, and the bare head as well. Usually, when you came out of meditation, you see all these little bumps of the mosquito bites. Didn't see any. And I thought, wow, this is psychic powers. If you get into deep meditation, the mosquitoes, you're immune. You've got a force field around you. The mosquitoes cannot penetrate. That's what I thought. It's not true. It's just science. Later on, when I saw these articles about mosquitoes, why do they bite you? The reason was because all the carbon dioxide which is emitted from your pores attracts them. And if you get really still, basically you don't get carbon dioxide coming out. They can't find you. Because what attracts them, the carbon dioxide, is not there. In fact, more carbon dioxide is coming out from the monk sitting next to you. So they got double muzzies. A bit unfair. I never knew that at the time. It's only when I came back to Australia I realised what was really going on. But it also told me the more agitated you are by mosquito bites, the more they know you're there and come and bite you. That's how it worked. So Ajahn Chah actually taught me how to avoid mosquito bites. Get into a nice deep meditation and you're safe. Okay? It kind of motivated me. Anyway, if a person has no choice, does that mean everything is predetermined? No. The thing which I did for myself to answer that question was that what later became known in science as chaos theory. Basically, it was as if a butterfly flaps its wing over Tokyo, it creates a hurricane in Australia. In other words, the conditions are so finely balanced, a small difference over here creates a huge difference somewhere else. And that's like with determinism. You cannot predict anything. Even you can find all the causes, but a slight variation, a slight difference here creates a huge difference somewhere else. You have no choice. There's so many people doing actions of body, speech, and even mind, that a small thing can actually mean you cannot determine anything. Once when a man asked Ajahn Chah, "I've supported you all my life. Can you please tell my fortune?" And handed out his own hand. "Can you please read the lines on my palm? I want to know what's going to happen to me." And Ajahn Chah said, "No, monks and nuns, we don't do that." When I was in Hong Kong, they took me down this street of fortune tellers. And I gave my Hong Kong disciples some advice. Never trust a poor fortune teller. If they can't tell their own fortunes, they're not going to tell yours. If they look thin and bedraggled, the marketing campaign doesn't work. So anyhow, Ajahn Chah took the guy, after a while, the guy was prepared. Okay, monks and nuns don't do that. But then he said, "It's the first time I've asked you anything, and you taught me about gratitude. Aren't monastics have gratitude? Read the palm of my hand. It's a small thing, you can do it. The first thing I've asked you for anything." So Ajahn Chah gave in. He took the man's hand and read the palms on the line of his hand. And every now and again, Ajahn Chah would stop. Ooh. He was winding the guy up really terribly. And every now and again, oh. And Ajahn Chah said, "Look, I'm a monk, I don't make mistakes. I'm an old monk too, and old monks don't lie. I'm an old monk too. Old monks don't lie." So anyway, he said after about half an hour, and the guy was so excited when Ajahn Chah took his finger away and said, "Your future, son, I don't make mistakes, this is going to happen." He was really excited. "Your future, sir, is uncertain." And Ajahn Chah wasn't wrong. "So do you want me to tell you your fortune?" It's mine now. In other words, uncertain. "Dear Ajahn, once someone attains jhana, how has his life changed? Do they become wiser, more compassionate, and change for the better?" You bet. One of the things they do, they have access to a different reality. a truer reality, the world of the mind. Number one, they have no doubts anymore about rebirth. You can see how it works. Just because your body passes away or dies, you know what happens? This mind continues on unless you're fully enlightened. This process does not stop at death. It stops at parinibbana. And so you don't get so upset when people die. You don't get so upset when you die. And number two, you have more of an understanding, okay, I don't mind saying this, about why you're reborn. What's the meaning of life? Sometimes it's learning more every life, growing in the Dhamma. And as you learn more, you get less attached to the pleasures of this world, and you feel more free. Sometimes even, did I have any trouble with my father, that I became a monk? No. He'd already passed away. My mother, what am I doing with my family name? I don't know why people keep saying that. You've got to have the family name continued. Why? But anyway, I had a brother. He got me out of that. Because he had a wife and 2 kids. You know those 2 kids, what they called me? Munkle. Ajahn Brahm. But because he had kids, I didn't need to. So I was free to become a monk. But I do remember Ajahn Chitamalo and Chittapala, they both became monks. There's only 2 kids their mum and dad had. And so once I ordained them as monks, oh my goodness, the mother came to see me to complain. Look, it's okay having one of your kids become a monk or a nun, but both of them, that's unfair. But I did it anyway. Anyway, next question. How important is posture for our meditation practice? Do we need a reasonably straight back for the energy to flow effectively? No. Is jhana more likely if my spine is long? No. It's independent. The reason is that jhana is concerned with the mind, not the body. So that also means if you're very sick, you can still get into good, deep jhanas. It's just actually getting there, getting past the pain of the body, enough just to leave it behind and go into the realm of the mind. What is the link between meditation practice and the development of psychic abilities, if any? Oh my goodness. When your mind becomes very strong, it becomes strong because you're not putting so much energy into watching the body. When the mind becomes very strong, it's fantastic. But you've got to be very careful, again, not to keep telling people about those, because people will always ask you questions. I remember this when we first came to Perth, and I was basically the attendant of Ajahn Brahm, and we were sitting together in Magnolia Street Temple, and this little boy came up, maybe 6 or 7 years of age, and said, "How many?" And Ajahn said, "How many what?" "How many inches?" "How many inches what?" said Ajahn Brahm. "How many inches can you levitate?" And that was a conversation. They wanted Ajahn Brahm to levitate in front of him. No way. What happens if he did? What would happen? Imagine the amount of praise you could get when you entered the monk or Ajahn Brahm in the Olympic Games, high jump. Come on, it's okay to be silly. But how could it work anyway? When you get into the realm of the mind has incredible powers. But it's so strong, those powers, that I already mentioned that lady, she was actually a Thai princess. That she got terrified of seeing this monk with the laser eyes. Real, I'm not making it up. And that's always the case. You see that in some of the stories in the Pali Canon years ago, that people get terrified that someone has so much energy and power. They don't intend to use it badly. one of my first experiences when I was at Wat Pah Pong, just a young monk, not really understanding much of what was going on. And this monk came down to all the monks he saw, including me, and I was just so junior, and bowed to us all, just in line. I didn't know, look, I'm junior to you can't bow to me, but he did anyway. And he bowed to everybody, this monk. And of course I asked, what was he doing that for? And then they told me the story, that he had some great meditation, and that he said he could hear these conversations a long distance away. What in the sutras and Vinaya they call the divine ear. You can hear what people say a long distance away, even our heavenly beings. And if anybody says that, that's a really dangerous thing to say. The monks were obliged to check him out. Was this true or not? So they arranged a conversation to be told over in the village about 6 or 8 kilometers away, in the market, and it turned out he could do that. He was right. He could hear people speaking 6 or 8 kilometers away. And so once it was proven to be correct, you know what this monk did? He bowed to all the monks in that monastery, including me. I was just so young, just newly ordained, and he disappeared. He went off into the jungles and the forests on the advice of Ajahn Brahm to avoid, becoming well known and becoming famous. That's what we had to do. So if Ayachanda exhibits a psychic power, then it's natural she will just disappear somewhere. You won't see her again. If Venerable Buddha does the psychic power, he will just, as first opportunity, go somewhere else, so he can't be tracked down. Anyway, are the eggs served at the centre from free-range or caged hens? I don't know. That is a Wayakata. A Wayakata means unknown, undeclared. You have to ask the cook. Who's the cook? Ask the egg. No, it's great to be able to be as kind as possible. Dear Ajahn, can we introduce meditation to dementia old people? Any suggestions? It's actually, if they've done meditation before, when they were young, got the hang of it, then maybe that might be possible. But because if you try and talk to someone with dementia, they wouldn't understand what you're talking about anyway. The words won't make sense. So I don't know if that would work. But what actually happened, apparently that's music. Old songs apparently works and gets their attention. Unfortunately, there's no songs I know about meditation. Well, some of you were telling me, I was asking the monks about this, I don't know this. Today I think at lunch, about Let It Go, a song. But these are old people, and old people probably wouldn't have heard that song, because I haven't heard it. It's a famous song called Let It Go or Let It Be. From Ice Age. Okay, but yeah, but anyway, if it's from Ice Age, I was born after the Ice Age, so I don't know that song. If it's an old person, they probably don't know it. Anyway, I have found it moving and profound. What is it? Where does it start? I have found it moving and profound as a descendant of English settlers, holding the history of genocide and enslavement of Aboriginal Australians. Their elder Auntie Miriam Rose Ungamer Bauman shares the gift of all this to all in this country is what she calls dadiri. Her descriptions are striking to me after practicing Buddhism. Inner deep listening and quiet still awareness, waiting, being still, with our deep springs within each one of us, to people and country, and this being. And there's such a wealth of connection. Have you seen this connection? Have you got any stories to share of this connection? Sadhu. The connection with the country.
I think between Buddhism and the indigenous.
Indigenous. Not yet. We had one indigenous person who came here. He stayed a few days. In our library, we have basically a dictionary of Nungya to Pali. Got some nice words for mindfulness and for meditation. Be interesting to find that. So sorry, no, not yet, but like dedication to country and beings as well. And the dedication to the country. There are some places in this world which, you know this is the connection I have with this. You go to them and they've got energy, really good energy or very bad energy. I remember just one of the first times I went on pilgrimage to India. The first time they took us to Kathmandu, and then they wanted to go and see the old palace in Kathmandu. And I wasn't really interested, so I was kind of being a bit rebellious. And so I left the main group and just went down this little alleyway and into this courtyard. It was all open, and it had some of the worst energy I've ever felt in my life. And I had to ask somebody, what was that place I just got into and came out of? And that was the place in the palace where once a year, I think the royal family would sacrifice animals to their gods for good luck. I never knew that. I didn't have a map or anything. You just wandered in there by chance, and you want to get out as soon as you can. And there's other places in this world which got some brilliant energy. And that's some of the places I say I cry. I can't help it. And one of those is the Vulture's Peak. It's where the Buddha spent such a long time in a cave. And you can go, in those days you can go in there. It wasn't sort of made for tourists. And you get there early in the morning, you go and meditate in there. And that has a huge energy. So I don't know if any of you have, here we go, meditating in a hall in Bodhinyana. In the front of that hall, that has huge energy too. If any of you haven't had good meditation yet, just walk over to Bodhinyana Monastery, into the main hall. If there's no one around in the afternoon, walk to the front, and then just sit meditation there. I don't know why, but that's great energy. So many people have meditated there. And there are some, if you don't believe it, it don't matter, but it's true. There are some really good Buddha relics in the front. Powerful. You just sit there and you get peaceful very easily. Don't just, you're not believing me, just tomorrow or the next day, see if you can walk over there and give it a try. Next question, 1 minute. Can one go into jhanas, practice stillness while lying down? Yes. Much gratitude for your teachings. Yes, it can be done. Does free will exist? Please explain. Again, Professor Libet said it very wonderfully well. There's no such thing as free will, but there's free won't. Not will, but won't. You have the choice to renounce, to stop. That's what he said anyway. Can you please explain the terms path and fruit, magga and pada? Thank you, Ajahn. First of all, the path, that's actually, okay, you asked, I'll try best. The path, especially for stream winning, that sometimes, you're either got enough understanding of the Buddha's teachings, accurate understandings of the Buddha's teachings, or you got enough confidence and faith in what the Buddha said, you're actually practicing in the right direction. You don't know you found the path, but it feels good. And eventually when you break through to understanding such things as non-self, as the nature of the mind, and things like you've got a jhana, so you've jumped out of the lake, so you've seen so many things disappear which you thought were always there, then that would be possibly a stream winning for you. So the path is you're on the way, and being a stream winner means you've got the fruit. You are a stream winner. But you know that sometimes it's not so clear with a once returner and a non-returner. What does it mean on the path we've actually got the fruit? Sometimes you might say, as long as you're a stream winner, you're on the path to being a once returner, non-returner, and an arahat. Because you've only got a few more lifetimes you have to break through. So what's the path to being a non-returner? You're either a stream winner or a once returner. It's going to happen. So some of those definitions just don't make any sense to me, except for, the stream winner. And they've applied it to the other ones as well. It doesn't make sense to apply it to the other ones. Okay, rebellious? Okay. I've only a few tomorrow.
Do you think we could do it on the last evening? Because Venerable Prasad is not here to agree.
Okay.
She's probably in the middle of the retreat.
Okay. Really? I thought I could get rid of these tomorrow by dumping them on you. No. 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 Okay. Then the last day. When's the last day? Sunday night. No, okay. Saturday. Saturday, no. Yeah, Saturday night. So a special event here, Saturday night fever with the nuns. Okay?
I mean, Venerable Prasad is not here to answer.
Yeah, okay. Ah, you got so much of the... Yeah. 1, 2, 3. If you answer the questions, each have one each, and answer at the same time, we'll be through this really quickly. Sorry. Anyway, when I stay up too late, I get tired. A bit silly, I apologise. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We could keep on going until we finish the questions. About 1 o'clock. No. And again, if I haven't answered your question, please, I apologise. But again, it's not my fault.